Hey guys, today we're going to be reacting to um, a different type of video, I guess. We're going to be reacting to a film theory episode for Christmas called The Christmas Crimes of Santa Claus, which came out just today. And I want to see what Matt has got in store for us for Christmas. Oh, and since the date may show the 23rd, but I'll be releasing this either tomorrow or Christmas Day. So it'll be my Christmas gift to you guys. And if you guys like this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos like this. Anyway, let's go into the video. Let's turn down the volume just a tad.
Everyone is excited for Santa to arrive. Everyone,
Okay.
but Matt Pat, that is.
What?
I'm cranky and overworked. He's a theorist with a bone to pick. Are we sure these Christmas cookies were locally sourced? But the man on top of his naughty list is Santa himself. When was the last time these elves got a lunch break? Do these stairs not have railings? Why is no one in this factory wearing PPE?
A lot of good questions that we won't get answers for.
Calling OSHA. Will one grumpy theorist be able to stop Christmas from coming?
Who would want that?
Learn that Santa is the biggest victim of
What?
all. It's a holiday story for the ages. A very film theory Christmas. Rated PG. Starting now. Hello, Internet. Welcome to Film Theory, the show that guarantees you'll be placed
Never
on the nice
expected
list
that
if
intro,
you hit
but
the
okay.
subscribe button. Tracing back to the 4th century, the myth of Santa Claus has changed a lot with the times. Over the centuries, Santa has undergone the most dramatic glow-up ever, starting off as a kindly 4th century bishop named Nicholas who lived in what's now modern-day Turkey, and transforming into a jolly bearded man.
Is that why they came with the name Saint Nick? Because of the Nicholas part?
Wears a red suit, lives in the North Pole, and stuffs himself down chimneys so he can deliver toys and eat all your cookies. It is quite the poke evolution. Anyway, from those beginnings, his modern mythos has been solidified by holiday classics like Miracle on 34th Street, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Silent Night, Deadly Night, and of course, Santa Claus Conquers the Martians.
I don't remember that one.
Leading us inevitably to the 1994 film The Santa Claus, as well as its 2 sequels, which, aside from making people misspell Claus for the better part of 2 decades, also acts as the most in-depth look into the inner workings of his North Pole operation ever. And what these movies reveal is how shockingly dark it all is. I mean, the idea of Santa was always pure and simple, and nobody ever really stopped to think about the labor force of the elves, but here in 2021, we're more aware than ever as to the plight of employees and their working conditions. The workforce and our understanding of it has come a long way since Santa was popularized. So today, I wanted to put Santa under some scrutiny. How are his working conditions up north? Do they meet by modern-day safety standards? And with people leaving their jobs en masse this year, should the elves be next? Is the ultimate supply shortage going to be coming from the North Pole itself, as Santa has job vacancies resulting after centuries of elf mistreatment? Well, ladies and gentlemen, get ready. This one's a doozy. In the Santa Claus movies, we learn a lot about the elf workforce in the North Pole. They're an immortal-ish race of workers who've been around since before the commercialization of Christmas.
I don't remember much of it. I haven't watched it in a while.
Toys have to be delivered. I'm not going to do it. It's not my job. I'm just an elf. We hear in Santa Claus 3, The Escape Clause, that they're just an army of toy-building yes-men working for the big man, Santa himself. Who's in charge here? You are. And from there, for the rest of the entire series, the elves are literally always working. As soon as one Christmas is over, they immediately start prepping for the next one without even having the luxury of a coffee break. Excuse me, are we on a coffee break?
We don't drink coffee.
Then I guess the break is over. That is not an okay mentality to have in the workplace. In 1970, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, was established, which is responsible for ensuring safe and healthy work environments in the U.S. And they've been pretty darn successful at that, as they've reduced workplace deaths by 50% since being introduced. So what would OSHA have to say about the elves' insane work hours? Nothing, actually. OSHA doesn't regulate workplace breaks. That's actually governed by the Fair Labor Standards Act. So what does it say? Nothing. again, but nothing in a different way. You see, it doesn't require employers to give breaks to their employees. It does say that any employer making employees pull more than 40 hours is required to give them overtime pay, provided they're making less than $47,476 per year. But as far as total working hours and breaks, nothing actually governs that. If you're an employee, you're working at will based on your employer's standards, unless, of course, you belong to a union. Okay, so the long hours being pulled by the elves doesn't seem like it's going to cause a big issue up at the North Pole. But even though OSHA doesn't limit total working hours, it does have safety standards in place. Things like needing to provide basic protections like guardrails and sprinklers, as well as equipment like eye shields and hard hats. And, as we hear in Santa Claus 3, many of Santa's workspaces are just currently not up to code.
This is not up to code, this building.
He's not wrong there either. When taking a look at the facilities, you'll notice that there aren't any guardrails installed.
Yeah, that was something Matt had pointed out in Willy Wonka, in a Willy Wonka theory, that there weren't any guardrails to stop people falling into the chocolate river. I think that's something he mentioned.
Brains. Various cables hang around that could easily zap unsuspecting workers, and when fires break out in the third film, there aren't adequate sprinklers to take care of them. Also, I should probably mention the rampaging robot Santa. Now, I don't think it's explicitly called out in the OSHA rulebook, but employers preventing evil robot uprisings, yeah, I'd say it's kind of implied. Now, while I could go on and list more of the infractions off and the specific codes that are being broken, none of it matters. None of it. Santa is free to do whatever misdeeds he wants for one reason and one reason alone: the fact that his factory is in the North Pole. OSHA's jurisdiction only covers the 50 U.S. states and other U.S. territories. The North Pole, meanwhile, has no recognized government. It exists in international waters, even though Russia, Denmark, and Canada have all tried to stake a claim for it. As a result, the only rules and regulations that it needs to follow are those coming directly from the United Nations, specifically the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea from 1982. Based on these laws of the sea, the only way any authority can come in and mess with Santa's business is if they can prove that Santa is threatening the elves and forcing them into labor, which, gotta admit, despite the insane hours and dangerous work conditions, never really seems to be the case for the elves in the workshop.
Yeah, they're not exactly being forced. I mean, they just know what to do. Santa's not pointing a gun at them and saying, "Hey, work, or this guy dies."
I mean, motivational lines like this,
all I want to see is busy, busy worker tushies,
are probably cause for an HR lawsuit, but it never seems like there's any sort of forced labor going on up there. Unless, of course, you're talking about Santa himself. Big twist time, friends! You see, the only one being forced into labor by Santa's workshop is, ironically enough, Santa himself. In case you've forgotten the plot of this movie, our protagonist, Scott Calvin, surprises Santa one night, causing him to fall off an icy roof and die. When examining the body, Scott uncovers a note that tells him to put on the iconic red coat. He does it, which, unbeknownst to him, locks him in as the world's new Santa.
So when you put on the suit, he fell subject to the Santa Claus.
Here. The Santa Claus?
A clause.
Oh, so he's forced to be Santa. You can't stop being Santa. That's literally the one thing you have to constantly be until you die and someone takes over.
As in the last line of a contract. And putting on the suit and entering the sleigh, the wearer waives any and all rights to any previous identity, real or implied, and fully accepts the duties and responsibilities of Santa Claus.
What does that mean?
It means you put on the suit, you're the big guy. You read the card, put on the suit that clearly falls under the Santa Claus, and now you're Santa, okay?
No, this business card right here is just outright contract fraud. In order to have a legally binding contract, you need 4 key components. First, an offer and acceptance. Someone offers to do X in exchange for Y, and the other person agrees. Second, you need mutual assent, basically just meaning that everyone is cool with there being a contract in place. Third is consent. Both parties are signing under their own free will. No one signing while feeling threatened or being misled. And lastly, mutual contract consideration. Consideration just refers to the exchange of something of value from one party in return for the promise or service provided by the other. And the Santa Claus, spelled with an E, breaks pretty much each and every one of these things. First, there is no assent to there being a contract. In fact, Scott has no idea there's a contract on this thing. The fact that it's designed to look like a business card and that you need a super magnifying glass to read the clause makes it almost immediately fraudulent.
Like, he should at least carry a letter or something in the costume saying, "Oh, if you put this on, you're gonna become Santa permanently. Like, there's no downside. You're just gonna suddenly, your memory and stuff will just disappear over a week. Your life will now become Santa's."
There, he's
It's just bringing you. It's better than getting it instead of just realizing it last minute.
clearly not giving his consent. For the better part of the first hour of the movie, he is constantly denying the fact that he's Santa Claus. And lastly, there's no exchange of consideration. He puts on the suit to become Santa, and what? He basically becomes an indentured servant for his entire life. He gets nothing in return. There is only take by the elves in the North Pole. So not only is he tricked into signing his life away, he must then endure these massive unwanted changes to his body as he transforms into the quote-unquote ideal version of Santa Claus. That is not okay. There is no consent here. Also, his heart apparently beats upwards of 140 times per minute as it plays Jingle Bells on repeat.
What?
What's even weirder is that Jingle Bells was written in the 1850s, which makes me wonder what songs the early Santas had playing in their chests. I'm assuming it was Gregorian chants. But perhaps worst of all is that he's now alienated from human society. He is deemed unfit to continue as a part of his family, and he has to leave everyone he loves in order to work 24/7 up at the North Pole. Put yourself in the place of Scott's ex-wife, who is justifiably concerned that her former husband has gained 100 pounds overnight, has grown a beard, and is pretending
I'd be worried if that happened to
I
me.
mean, that is justifiable cause for concern. And as such, she works to suspend his visitation rights to their son. And then the elves encourage him to basically kidnap his son.
Please can't go, Bernard. Okay with me.
Bernard, despite undergoing the Santa training process with multiple other Santas in the past, continues to egg Scott on and assist in taking his kid away from his mother and stepdad for a full month without their consent.
Jesus.
If I were to guess, Bernard did this because he knew that it would cause Scott's life to be in a shambles from this point forward. He is now wanted for kidnapping, and as such will have to remain at the North Pole in order to work. As Bernard says earlier in the
You
film,
don't usually think about this stuff when this happens.
Tomorrow morning. You have 11 months to get your affairs in order, and you're due back here Thanksgiving.
And when Scott doesn't do that, Bernard swoops in to close it out for him. And wouldn't you know, the police do send out dozens of cops to hunt Scott down, which leads to Scott being imprisoned. Sure, there's a special forces branch of elves that helps to free Scott, but this only makes things worse because now it means that Scott is an escapee from jail, which you know is going to remain on his record. And the contracts only get worse from there in the sequels. If you thought that the first contract was fraudulent, wait until you see the Mrs. Claus, which requires pretty much an electron microscope to read.
Card holder acknowledges woman of his choosing. I gotta get married.
Yeah, when Scott agreed to this, it was totally a consensual contract between all parties involved. In the Santa Claus 2, we learn that there's apparently a Mrs. Claus, with an E, which forces Scott to find a wife in 28 days. Otherwise, Christmas is just gone and forgotten. So Scott has to revert back to Tim Allen form and tricks a headstrong middle school principal named Carol to become his wife. The proposal scene here just hurts so much because Carol is forced to say yes in front of an army of elves who know that she has to say yes or risk the end of Christmas. And if all this 40-day fiancé-esque behavior wasn't cancel-worthy enough, Santa then goes and does the exact same thing that happened to him. He drags her away from her home and essentially makes her break off all contact with her family because the secret of Christmas needs to be kept.
And I'm sure you have a perfectly good reason for shutting it down.
No.
Which, as we see in part 3, causes Carol to, go figure, become horrifically depressed. So we've got both our Mr. and Mrs. Claus, both entrapped to fill their Christmas time roles. But to add insult to injury in true capitalist dystopia form, Santa is an employee who just doesn't matter. Santa is expendable. Normally in most Santa Claus films, like the Christmas Chronicles or Elf, Santa's this immortal deity who runs the North Pole. However, in the Santa Claus movies, he's a figurehead who can, and has, died repeatedly only to be unceremoniously swapped out. In the third film, we learn that there have been at least 50 Santas before Scott. Santa dying is not an infrequent occurrence in this universe, and you'd think that the death of Santa would be a big deal for the elves, but no. When Scott kills off the prior iteration of Santa at the top of the very first movie, no one bats an eye. None of the elves say hi to him or ask what happened to the other Santa. In fact, the elves actively sass him.
Funky shoes that are
And if anything, they look annoyed that they have to deal with a newbie on the job. In short, Santa is a figurehead at the mercy of the elves, caught up in a system where he has no control. And all of this...
I've got a lot of things to think about now. Talking about, what did people used to say? This is a holly jolly Christmas. Not when this guy's around. He's freaking making theories about Santa being a slave to the elves. instead of the elves being enslaved to him.
Is without even mentioning the mysterious disappearances of the former Mrs. Clauses. The Mrs. Claus is a thing that all Santas are bound by, after all. The prior Santa had to have a family too. So what happened to the former Mrs. Claus when Santa died? Suspicious much? Remember how I said that the only way a toy workshop in the North Pole could get in trouble
Wait,
was
so they said that there was at least 50 Santa Clauses. That must mean there was at least 50 Mrs. Clauses. Jesus.
it was forcing people to work against their will? Well, it's not the elves that need the help, it's Santa. Santa is a prisoner in his own workshop. The elves entrap Scott into an illegal and fraudulent contract. Scott's body is abused against his will. Any goodwill that Scott once had with society and his family is systematically ruined by the elves. He's forced into marriage as a part of his job, and all of it for no compensation. And while the movies try to play this off as a positive thing, like, oh, look at Scott discovering the magic of Christmas, it's not. As even in the third movie, after Scott has been a Santa for quite some time, he still regrets all of it.
Are there times when you wonder if this was even worth it? You know, wish I'd never put that red coat on.
He regrets it because he knows he was forced into the position.
I wish I'd never become Santa.
In this world, it's not Santa that's the evil employer, it's the elves. They're the ones
Yeah, this was exactly what I was
that
saying.
need to get those OSHA violations. So someone called the UN. We need to defend some workers' rights up north. This year, don't leave cookies out on the plate for Santa Claus. Leave the phone number to a helpline. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you, Matthew Patrick. Merry Christmas to you. Anyway, guys, that does it for this video. Oh, if you guys enjoyed this, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And Merry Christmas to you all. And I'll see you in the new year.